Okay, Sophia, so tell us about your typewriter, because it's not common to see, people in 2025 with typewriter. How did that come about, and what made that so special for you?
There's something really magical in the instantaneous moment of it all. So first of all, there's the tactile, the feel of it. It's really like you're creating something physical in that moment. And unlike, a word processor or a computer or whatever, you really have to work with what you're being met with in the present. So it's very much a practice of being in the present moment. So I love that. And then when it comes to my typewriter poetry that I do for people on the spot, that adds a whole other layer of magic to it, where we're meeting in this moment and we're working together. And I tell people all the time, people say, "Oh my goodness, that's so cool. How do you do that?" And it's not just me. We work together. We meet across the typewriter. People give me an idea, and with sort of this exchange of energy. And there's something really magical about that. So that's sort of how the idea came forward. I've seen people working with typewriters all through my life, and I've always had sort of an interest, in all the different aspects of the tools that are used for writing. But that one is just so interesting to me. You can't necessarily erase. On one time I was doing my typewriter poetry down on Main Street, and a family walked by, and there was a young child among them, and the child asked the father, well, what do they do if they mess up? And he said, well, they don't mess up. And he wasn't necessarily right about that, but he wasn't necessarily wrong either. My take on it is that, you have two choices. Just like in life, you can either start over again or make the mistakes part of it. And I think that there's some sort of a practice in that, a sort of meditative, personal practice in the magic of that moment.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, let's talk about the poem that you wrote titled Perseverance. Now, there was a block party happening, and Sophia was out with her typewriter. It goes a way where you tell Sophia a word, and she writes a poem from the word that you gave her. The word that I chose was perseverance, and she came up with this brilliant poem that spoke to everything that I was going through at the time. So Sophia, tell us how you came up with that, what made it connect to what I was going through and all that.
So like I said, there's this practice where I sort of have to be right in the moment. And I tell people I have many funny little quirks and habits, but one of them is that I love to collect four-leaf clovers. And people say, well, how do you find a four-leaf clover? And the idea is that you have an intention, like you want to find this sort of rare thing, but you can't try too hard. You sort of have to hold it right over here in your mind and know that you will, but just allow it to happen. And the typewriter poetry thing that happens, with this particular case, is exactly that. So when you gave me that word, I sort of had to sit right in the moment and hold the idea somewhere, in my periphery, in my aura, if you will. And just when you start typing, you're drawing from whatever I believe in, a greater creative force, if you will. And I am just one of the myriad pieces of that, if you will. So when you gave me the word perseverance, I had to sit for a moment and then just let whatever came to me come out. And I think that's where, like I said, it's really important that it's a collaborative effort between the querent and myself, where I'm picking up, however, whatever you bring to the table is in that greater creative force as well. And in a way, I'm sort of just a channel for that. And when it comes to the topic itself, the first thing that came to me was, okay, as the poem starts, how do we make this world what we want it to be? How do we shape it into an ideal, beautiful place? And that's really one of the first ingredients, right? Is not giving up. And that was sort of the idea that came, and I just took that and went with it and let my fingers start typing, and the rest is really, it's really like just magic. It just happens.
Yeah, it's perfect. Okay, Sophia, so your poem speaks about perseverance, and we live on Cape Cod, where there are a lot of challenges that creatives face, various challenges. How do you see these challenges, and how do you yourself fit in any of these challenges? And do you have any advice for anyone who might be faced with some of these challenges?
Definitely. So first and foremost, I grew up here, and a lot of my teachers and role models were and are, working class people involved in the trades and things like that. And I grew up sort of seeing how that's respected and seen as like a valid form of generating income, generating a living or whatever. But whenever I would bring up the fact that I wanted to be a writer, it was like, oh, you have to like get a real job. That's not actually a way to make a living. That's not true. And the fact of the matter is that most of us, if not all way or another, that is art. It's created by artists. When you go home at the end of the day and you watch television or Netflix, or you read a book or you listen to music, that is somebody's work. And I think one of the biggest things that I'd love to see unfolding around here, and we are working towards that, is that recognition and respect of art as a valid form of work that is worth celebrating and paying for. I have this conversation a lot when it comes to the concept of like the celebration of the arts in our community, public art, etc. I ask people, think of the most prosperous cities in this country or in the world. Where is the money at? Where is it happening? These cities are places where the art is produced and celebrated. Everything that you watch comes out of Los Angeles or New York City, and that's because the arts are given their proper place as a valid form of expression and generating income. So that's one of the biggest things that I think is important to see happening here. The other thing is, I don't quite know why or how it happens to be this way, but a lot of my fellow artists are people of diversity, a variety of types of people. There's all walks of life here, and we all make and create things. And so respecting that as well, I think, is very important, and celebrating that. And again, we are doing what we can to sort of make that, it starts with us. It starts where you are. So whatever you're doing in your home, in your workplace, whatever it is, there's that like saying, be the change or whatever, like that's very much true. And we have these sort of like cliches like that are true, and they're cliches for a reason. My sort of personal belief system, I'm a very spiritual person, and the idea is that we want to embody the spirit of a new earth that we want to see. So it really starts with us. That's one of my biggest pieces of advice, is just start living like it is, living like you are part of this beautiful future. And not only that, but it ties directly back to this, because the next piece of advice is literally that, perseverance. You can't give up. This isn't the type of work or progress that is like one and done. You don't just do something and then it's over. It is a daily, sometimes hourly, sometimes by minute practice. We're actually just talking about this, where like you may have doubts or negative thoughts come up, and you constantly have to stay persevering and stay vigilant and stay on top of making the world a better place. And it starts here with you. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Sophia. Okay, so normally poems are on paper or in books, but we have put your poem on lifestyle products. We have tote bags and we have sweatshirt. What do you think about that?
I think it's really cool, and I'm really excited to be part of something so unique and like unprecedented in a way. I love to see, again, so like when I talk about how all the forms of creativity, art creation, all sort of draw from the same source, to see that manifest by different mediums coming together and really representing that, you know, the creative force that I draw on, I believe is the same creative force that you draw on. And we may call it by different names or whatever, but the fact of the matter is that we're all part of this same thing. In my tradition that I follow, the concept is that unity is the truth. And essentially when, you know, what you look at as, well, my tradition looks at it as like what would be a sin or whatever, is essentially lying to yourself or trying to separate yourself from that unity. So to see projects where they're actually like making unity happen, bringing together ideas and things and people, is one of the most exciting things I can think of. And I'm really excited to see, you know, see how this unfolds. It's really very, very cool and very exciting to be part of.
Awesome.
In public during the summertime, I have a street performer permit, so you can find me anywhere along Main Street. And then I also contract for different events and things like that. But what's really exciting is I've recently acquired a 1982 camper, an RV.
Ooh.
And I'm working towards taking this show on the road a bit more. And I'm working, it's very early stages, but I'm working on a concept of a sort of mobile bookstore and poetry studio. So I won't be, right now I have a cart that I go up and down Main Street on, but I can go further once I've sort of developed that idea a bit more. All over the Cape, all over the state, who knows? And what's more, I'm always working towards publishing, and I have a series of locally based, Cape Cod based mystery stories that I am working towards getting published around this summer. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And a funny crossover is that the main character of the book is a bookstore owner who actually acquires a mobile bookstore, so there's a meta aspect of it too. But you'll always find me at any sort of art celebration event, especially dealing with the 4th of July, with the Hyannis Public Library. I like to be involved in the community and uplifting the community as much as possible.
So what about like, would you ever like publish a series of poems and sell them, like people can get, you know, your collection?
Definitely. And so currently what I have are a series of prints. I actually take my typewriter poetry and then I print them, limited runs. I have some that are just original, directly created from the typewriter, and then I have some that I have sort of copied and made prints of. Those I have for sale downstairs at the 4th of July retail space as standalone prints, and then also as a sort of chapbook that are books and those are all self-published. When it comes to like even greater publishing works or whatever, there is the town of Barnstable is, I don't know how exactly that's all playing out, but I know that they've collected the poems from that event and have put that together in an interesting book. And I foresee my ideal world consists of myself producing many books for everyone's enjoyment. So long story long, yes, absolutely. Please keep your eyes peeled for all manner of printed work from me.
Thank you so much, Sophia, for talking with us today. This conversation was inspiring and we had a great time.
Same.